action.
The One World Trade Center. One World Trade Center was brought up from the ashes and rubble of the Twin Towers in the World Trade Center complex. This new addition to the New York skyline walked a long road to achieving its greatness. The first topic will be the owner. 6 weeks before the attacks on the towers, Larry Silverstein, CEO of Silverstein Properties, completed the largest real estate transaction in New York history when he signed a 99-year lease for the World Trade Center complex. From the Port Authority of New York and the Port Authority of New Jersey. Being 70 at the time, Mr. Silverstein and his wife thought this would be the last big deal before they set sail into a golden retirement. This all changed 6 weeks later when the attack happened, and that dream changed. 10 days after the attacks, at a press conference, it was announced that the World Trade Center would be rebuilt. This was in contrast to the then mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani's idea to change the whole site into a memorial or a housing district. The decision to rebuild would be a long road, one of lawsuits, arguments between owners and architects, and construction problems. After the attacks, Mr. Silverstein found himself having to pay $120 million annually for his lease, which is now nothing but a pile of rubble. According to Atticus Ganaway, Mr. Silverstein's next step was to contact two of the founding partners of Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen, and Katz. Herb Wachtell, 54, Silverstein's close friend for nearly 6 decades, as well as Martin Lipton, 55, with whom Silverstein had served for years at NYU's Board of Trustees. I got on the phone with Herb and I said, "Herb, I've got a problem." He said, "Hi, do you have a problem?" While Silverstein wanted to rebuild, his insurance coverage of the World Trade Center site cobbled together with numerous policies from a total of 25 insurers to create the maximum possible protection, totaling only $3.5 billion. Far from enough to restore the site. What was the lawsuit about? The insurance companies wanting to claim that the attacks are one of the individual incident, and therefore the maximum coverage for the site was $3.5 billion. Mr. Silverstein and his lawyers argued that it was two planes 15 minutes apart, constituting two separate attacks on the site, doubling the coverage from $3.5 to $7 billion. This suit would drag out for 6 years and ultimately end in a much smaller settlement than the $7 billion asked for by Mr. Silverstein and his lawyers. It was around $4.6 billion paid out by 25 different insurance companies. This, however, was still a long way from the $20 billion spent so far on redoing the site. The next topic we're speaking on is the architects. In 2002, the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation, the LMDC, announced a competition for the master plan for the redevelopment of the World Trade Center complex. In 2003, Daniel Libeskind and his firm won the competition. Mr. Libeskind was born in Poland in 1946 and moved to the U.S. with his family as a teenager. He received his professional degree in architecture from the Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art in 1970 and a postgraduate degree in the History and Theory of Architecture from the School of Comparative Studies at Essex University in England in 1972. This is according to People, the architect's firm's website. Most of Mr. Libeskind's plans for the buildings were not kept the same as the plans changed, and different architects won bids or carried favor with different developers. The overall footprint of the site stayed the same with the height progression to One World Trade Center, and the symbolic height of One World Trade Center was 1,776 feet tall to mark the year that the 13 colonies signed the Declaration of Independence. In the end, David Child of Skidmore, Owings and Merrill was the architect of One World Trade Center. David Child was born in 1941 in Princeton, New Jersey, and educated at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. He graduated in 1963. He first majored in zoology before turning to architecture at the Yale School of Architecture, and he earned his master's degrees in 1967. In 2005, the final design of One World Trade Center was finalized and construction began the next year. The new tower and the skyline is the next topic. In 2006, after 5 long years of legal battles, the ground finally broke on the new World Trade Center. This build was over-designed for safety concerns to the max to make sure that a 9/11 event could never happen again on the World Trade Center complex. And if an attack did happen, the building would not fail. The main struggle was faced by AECOM, the main construction management company of the One World Trade Center, was the new building codes that arrived after 9/11. Some of the new codes included more robust fire protection and more emergency stairwells for office buildings over 420 feet. And the tower's stairwells are 50% larger than required by law, and one stairwell is reserved for emergency personnel only to aid in evacuating. The building skeleton was made out of a hybrid construction of a steel and concrete frame. Another innovation was a system that was implemented was a cocoon that developed 16 stories of the building at a time in rows with the building protecting all trades from the elements and the possibility of failing. Results in 0 major incidents during the entirety of the construction phase from 2006 to 2014 when the building opened. That's the end.